Political commentator Dr Ebrahim Harvey has described former ANC President Jacob Zuma's recent announcement that he'll be voting for uMkhonto weSizwe party as inherently crass and opportunistic. He made the comments in an opinion piece published in the City Press. Harvey is with us for more on his views. Doc, very good evening. Appreciate your time this evening. You've called Jacob Zuma's voting for the uMkhonto weSizwe party, or that announcement, as inherently crass and opportunistic. Please unpack that for us.
Good, thank you. Just a correction there. I'm a News 24 columnist, so it's not really City Press, but okay, that for another time. No, I chose those words deliberately because, the former president, I see him as a very embittered and vindictively embittered person, and you can see the timing. He wants to injure the ANC, I think, really as much as possible, though he talks of his loyalty to the ANC, he'll die ANC, and he does not seem to realize, this is the confusion of his decision to join this MK party and to call on the electorate not to vote for the ANC but for the MK. How could you, if you think rationally about it, be pledging loyalty to the ANC till he dies, and then decampaign for the ANC in arguably the most important national election since 1994. So it doesn't add up at all. It's inconsistent. It's a fundamental contradiction, but it indicates more how embittered I think Zuma is. There's a whole history behind this, which I paint in the column. A lot of things have happened to Zuma. He's still facing those corruption charges. There's lots of things going on in Kandla and so on. And you see what happened in 2021 when he was jailed and then the riots broke out. But, the ANC, I had a 702 interview this morning. I said that the ANC is sitting between a rock and a hard place regarding Zuma. I'm sure they're having sleepless nights in a massive dilemma about what to do with him. Because arguably, it would be entirely constitutional if Zuma was fired and dismissed by the ANC, because what he's done is tantamount to, certainly it's a dismissible offense. But if you look at the momentum this MK party is gaining, the traction, especially in KZN, the ANC has to tread very, very carefully. And I think they would be ill-advised to go and expel him, because were they to expel Zuma, I can tell you that MK party would gain much more traction, and certainly in Natal pose the most formidable challenge to the ANC in that region. And, he's got influence in other parts of the country, about 60, 70 to 80% of Zuma's backing and support amongst ordinary people. They don't seem to care much. Mm. The ANC members, even those who go to the NEC, the National Conference, they don't care. You can see when Zuma was fired by Mbeki in June 2005, 1.5 years later, he won Polokwane, he beat Mbeki. So I'm just trying to indicate, and now you can see the traction that this MK party is gaining rather rapidly, They don't care it's a serious problem. I've devoted columns to this, and sometimes saying maybe the leadership...
Well, Dr. Harvey, allow me to come in there. Now, you've called it opportunistic, this announcement that he's voting for uMkhonto weSizwe party. In the same breath, you've also talked about the traction that this MK party is getting. Why is it opportunistic and not a smart move by Jacob Zuma?
No, it was, I said both. I used the word smart, but in the final analysis, it can't stand to withstand an interrogation or a critique, this confusion that is spreading, and it's bound to affect the voters and electorate in KZN in particular, to say that you're pledging loyalty to the ANC, and then you decampaign and you say the people mustn't vote ANC, they must vote MK. But the opportunism, I want to just emphasize, is born out of his embitteredness, and he seems to hold Ramaphosa responsible for him being jailed, though, he has himself to be blamed for being jailed. If you look at how he dealt with the attempt by the Zondo Commission of Inquiry to question him, and then the Concord decision when it was referred to the Concord when he refused to cooperate. So he is himself entirely to blame, but opportunistic in the sense that, it's because he knows that the ANC is at a weak point. That's the thing. He knows that ANC is facing the biggest crisis since 1994 and striking now out because of this accumulated embitterness, of how I think he feels he's been treated. And also, selective treatment, that other people, they were quick to act with him, whereas other people, for example, the Zono Commission of Inquiry pointed out certain ministers were fingered seriously with almost prima facie evidence. 2 ministers I can think of. And nothing happened to them. They're still in the cabinet and they're going to be part of the election. So he has picked up and he's got a point, I think, about the inconsistency, the step-aside rule and how it's been implemented and how, the former General Secretary was, dismissed. So I think there's a lot of gripes that Zuma has, about what has happened in the ANC. But he's chosen a time, really, I can tell you, this is in the run-up to the election. It's the most important election, and how the ANC is going to resolve this matter, whether they dismiss him or not, is going to have a crucial bearing on the outcome of the election, certainly in KZN, and you can see already how the people are gravitating towards, I'm reading, I don't think it's feasible, but 1 million members and more figures been thrown around, bandied about. But clearly, I think the ANC is very concerned. If you look at the response of people, particularly in KZN, to this MK party, it's been overwhelming, if you think of it. And so it poses a serious threat to the ANC, certainly in KZN,
So let's talk a little bit about that call for Zuma's call for ANC members to vote for the MK party and the fact that it has potential to create confusion, which you've talked about. So let's focus on how this might impact ANC electoral strategy, especially in regions like KwaZulu-Natal, where Zuma has significant support. How is the ANC going to deal with this?
Well, that's the big headache. The ANC has given no clear indication. All Ramaphosa said, you know what? People are free to decide what to do. He responded to Zuma's statement and all this. He said, this is people are free to decide, and but the strategy that you're referring to is going to be the big headache. This thing is on its way. It's unstoppable now. It's gaining momentum. The MK party is going to be in the elections. But what I've taken much difference with very sharply is Zuma's attempt to cast himself as a moral anti-crusader. With the formation of this party, he says the new party will tolerate no corruption. Yet, if you look at Zuma's political career, overwhelmingly that career is dominated by allegations of corruption from one scandal to another. So I'm saying it's very rich, of Zuma to be attacking the ANC on corruption and saying that MK will not tolerate corruption whatsoever. And you look at his own career, Nkandla and arms deal and so many things that he's been mired in, and corruption controversy. Yes?
Dr. Harvey, you speak of a number of ministers that were fingered in that Zondo Commission report and multiple others in the ANC. So it's almost like it is the lifeblood of the ANC, the issues around corruption. But I'd like to move on to something else that you mentioned, and you talked about the EFF potentially exploiting the confusion between ANC and MK in campaigning. How do you see this playing out, and what impact could it have on the 2024 elections?
I think, people are generally making a big mistake. You look at that fantastic 10th anniversary celebrations of the EFF, spectacular success, I tell you. They pulled out all the stuff. It was marvelous what the EFF did with their 10th anniversary. That's a major backdrop, and I can tell you now they calculated to make a formidable impact with that to set the basis for the 2024. And you can hear Malema, they're so confident, super confident. I think it's been of a delusion to think that they're going to win the election, which is what they think. But I can tell you, I think you're looking at, they were 10, 11%. Now, the Carl Niehaus joined the EF, Jimmy Mani joined the EF. A whole lot of things are happening, that it's very likely that the EFF could go from 11, 12 to 15, even 20% and more. And I'm now arguing now in my column that it's possible, really, that the EFF could supplant the DA as the official opposition. That is what I think is very likely to happen here, you know. But there's no doubt that the ANC is sitting with a massive headache, you know, about the election strategy of the EFF. And they're very concerned. Believe me that Ramaphosa and the ANC is more concerned about the EFF than they are about the Moonshot Pact and the DA. I mean, the Moonshot Pact, what is it really? It's 80% DA, a little action essay and so on. But it's really the DA, you know, that controls and runs that you know, Moonshot Pact. And so the ANC is very well aware of that. The ANC's biggest fear, I believe, at the end of the day for the 2024 election is what the EFF is going to do, what results they're going to get in that election. And certainly you must be aware of, there's no doubt, I can tell you now, in fact, the fact that Zuma is going in, voting for this MK party, the ANC will definitely now, more so than before, go between 40 to 45% of that national vote. I'm absolutely concerned, and so that for the first time you will have a national constituted coalition government. We've never had that. You have local coalition government. The ANC's never lost a national election. In 2019, they got 57%. But it's so bad on the whole now, and see what Zuma's done. I think you're definitely talking 40 to 45% of the vote for the ANC in next year's election.
Dr. Harvey, as we wrap up the conversation, I want us to go back to the July unrest, which were largely triggered because of the issues around Jacob Zuma, which speaks to, one, Jacob Zuma's popularity. It also speaks to the court of public opinion, which seems to be predominantly sympathetic with Jacob Zuma. He is 81 years old and he is imprisoned, right? Now, my question is around the ANC's strategy to deal with issues such as this. Do they have a strategy? It would seem that they haven't foreseen much of what Jacob Zuma has been doing in the past, this association with the MK party, and obviously the growth and popularity of that party ahead of next year's election.
I would love to know what the details of the ANC strategies. I can tell you now, they're having headaches, sleepless nights, trying to work out this strategy in relation to two things now, which I think has become a dominant consequence, and that is in relation to the EFF and what they do now about Zuma with the MK party. But I'll tell you something, we've got a serious problem with the electorate of this country and with the membership of the ANC. I've written many columns. The ANC membership, even the delegates, they say to the National Congress, they don't care about corruption. They voted for Zuma against Mbeki in Polokwane when Zuma beat him. 18 months after Mbeki fired him, after the Hilary Squire's judgment said there's a generally corrupt relationship between Zuma and Shabir Sheikh, the convicted fraudster, they still voted. And now you can see again how much traction the MK party is gaining. It's very popular, there's no doubt about it. But they don't care, honestly, which is a serious problem in terms of the political culture of ANC members, you know, and supporters, you know. Whoever they go for, they're not too concerned. Believe me, you can see it all the time. And that truth has been reflected and manifested with no more than with Zuma. And I always go to Polokwane that he got elected 18 months after Mbeki fired him, when he found that there was a generally corrupt relationship between Zuma and Shabir Sheikh. So it's a very serious problem, and that's why I'm saying he is so formidable a force, no matter what you and I say about corruption in Zuma and whatever. In KZN, he's like a god in KZN. You can see any meetings. In this musician who passed away, Zuma spoke there, Ngedi, and you can see that when he entered the hall, how people responded. It was amazing, you know. And that is the popularity of the man, and the ANC knows that, the IFP, all of them know. Zuma is probably the most popular political figure in KZN without any shred of doubt, no matter what dogs him, what corruption scandals, that is it.
Dr. Ebrahim Harvey, appreciate your time, political commentator, speaking to us on the Zuma, MK and ANC issue.